clear plan at quarterback. The plan still seems to be Aaron Rodgers, but the future Hall of Famer has yet to make a decision. In the meantime, Pittsburgh exploring the possibility of acquiring Kirk Cousins in case Rodgers doesn't pan out. But Steelers legend Terry Bradshaw isn't a fan of the team's long pursuit of Rodgers.
That's a joke. He shouldn't. That is, this to me is a joke. What are you going to bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? I mean,
that's not the Steelers' way, right?
No, man, that guy needs to stay in California.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Chew on bark and risky the gods out there.
And we bring in our Louis Riddick. Gentlemen, Terry Bradshaw with some strong comments. Stay out in California, chew on some bark. I didn't hear the rest of that. But, Louis, do you agree with Bradshaw?
You know, no, not necessarily, no. Look, I think in the beginning of the offseason, I had said, Molly, that Pittsburgh needs to level up at the quarterback position. They need to get someone who is, as Mike Tannenbaum likes to use this word, and I really do agree with it, who's a full force multiplier, meaning he can kind of improve the football intelligence of the rest of the roster, make them play smarter football, make them play more precise football, kind of really elevate the passing game to where it's more diverse, where the quarterback can make, you know, various different throws with a high degree of accuracy and proficiency, which are all things that I think Aaron can do. I still think he can do them. Can he do them at MVP level? No, he cannot. Is last year really indicative of what I think he will be in 2025? No, I do not think that's the case, and we know that's not going to be the case because he is getting healthier, and he did show in the back half of the year last year, in the last quarter of the season, he showed you some flashes of what he can do when he is 100% healthy. So, no, I don't agree that he would not be someone who could help this football team. I think, obviously, the problem everybody has with Aaron, and I get it, is the fact that they feel as though he brings a certain aura to the football team that is not positive in any way. It's much more negative. It's a much more drama-filled. And look, and Pittsburgh really doesn't want that. Then Pittsburgh really isn't an organization that really has had that. But I'll tell you what, I heard the guy in the background say this, that Aaron really isn't the Pittsburgh way when you're talking about player acquisition, talking about quarterbacks. Well, you tell me, what the hell is the Pittsburgh way recently? What is it? Because right now it's just been subpar is what it's been at that position.
100% right, Louis. I mean, I love Terry, and he can say anything he wants. He won 4 Super Bowls for him. He's one of the great players of all time at that position, so he's earned the right to say what he wants, but he's lost. I mean, what do you want, Mason Rudolph to be the Steelers quarterback? They don't have a quarterback. And they have a now team. They just spent a fortune on Metcalf. T.J. Watt's not getting any younger. Tomlin's been there a long time. The fan base is hungry for some playoff wins. He's better than Mason Rudolph. Case closed. He's better than Mason Rudolph. He improves them at that game's most important position by a significant margin. And so does Cousins, by the way, if that's the decision they want to go with. And then Terry brings up the fact, well, they didn't handle Pickett right. He could be the answer. Well, hold on now, Terry. Pickett went to Philly, was only a backup, and then Philly just traded him to Cleveland. And Cleveland thought so much of Pickett, they drafted 2 quarterbacks in the draft to challenge Pickett as the quarterback there. So the idea that somehow this is Johnny Unitas, he was once a Steeler before he went to the Colts, that Pickett's on that level is a bunch of nonsense. So the bottom line is they don't have a guy at that spot. And Rodgers is better than Rudolph, so is Cousins. And if that's what the Steelers are going to do, wait forever on Rodgers. As long as he's there in week 1, that's all that counts. I'm not into if he doesn't sign now, June, who cares? If he's there the 10th of September, they are better than they are now with Mason Rudolph. And that's what this comes down to if I'm a member of the Pittsburgh organization. Stevie?
Well, listen, both of you are correct in terms of Terry Bradshaw and what he said and not necessarily agreeing with him, but we need to dissect why. And you both acknowledge he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. One of the great quarterbacks in NFL history. You don't see too many people walking around with 4 Super Bowl championships. It's Tom Brady. The list is very, very few. Peyton Manning doesn't have 4 Super Bowl rings. Eli Manning doesn't have Super Bowl rings. Dan Marino didn't have any Super Bowl rings. Dan Fouts, Kenny Anderson, so many different other guys that haven't won championships. Terry Bradshaw won 4, and he won it during an era when the physicality of the game was absolutely positively vicious. And so when you take that into account, you can't dismiss or ignore anything that he's saying. I don't agree with him because the Steelers' quarterback room is an absolute joke. Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson is just abysmal. Make no mistake about it. Ben Roethlisberger has been going 3 full seasons. They're entering their 4th year without Big Ben Roethlisberger. They haven't had a quarterback since him, as far as I'm concerned, somebody that you can really hang your hat on with the franchise, not to mention the fact the last couple of years he was in Pittsburgh, he was pretty much shot and done. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and I say it's been a while since the Pittsburgh Steelers has had a quarterback, so Aaron Rodgers is going to be an upgrade no matter which way you slice it. So in that regard, I certainly understand and side with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the part about what Terry Bradshaw was saying, however, that I don't think he articulated well enough. It's not really about Aaron Rodgers with him. It's about the state of the Steelers. So you can look at him and say, okay, Aaron Rodgers ain't what he used to be, but still recognize he's better than anything they have. I think somebody like Bradshaw is saying, this is the franchise that I love and revere, that I'll help to win 4 Super Bowl championships, 2 back-to-backs, by the way, okay? 2 back-to-backs. Won it in 75 and 76, and then won it again in 79 and 80. 2 back-to-back Super Bowl championships this man registered. He's saying, what the hell has happened to this organization? How in God's name in a conference, forget a league, a conference that has Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, the list goes on and on. How in God's name are we, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the one team that can't seem to get our hands on a franchise caliber quarterback? And that's the real issue here.
Yeah, I agree. Lewis?
I don't think there's any doubt that whether you're a Steelers fan or not, whether you're an ex-Steeler or not, if you're just a casual football fan, you're sitting there going, wait a second. They have a coach who's going to walk right into the Hall of Fame. They have, I'm not sure, I don't know what the present count is. I believe they probably have more players in the Hall of Fame from that organization than any organization in the NFL. I'm not sure about that, but I would venture to say that that's the case. This is one of the most storied franchises in all of professional sports, and yet at the most important position, we can't seem to get this position anywhere close to being something where it's a bona fide, unquestioned strength of our roster. And how is that the case? How are we constantly meddling here and kind of spending time in purgatory when it comes to quarterback play? And I think you're hearing that come out. Obviously, you know what? You also hear this, though, Stephen A. People, and you hear this like nationwide when you're talking about quarterback play, you're talking about the Steelers, and you're talking about Aaron Rodgers in particular. Fans, by and large, anecdotally, do not want him on their roster. They just don't. They feel as though the guy they don't care how good he was, how good he potentially could be. They're just like, we don't care. We're just tired of the story surrounding him. That is probably even more so to me. One of the more interesting things about this than anything is that here's a guy who I think really does bring value to your football team, especially in a situation like the Steelers. And people still are like, nah, I'll pass. I'll stick with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard.